Okay, it's like 7:45 in the morning. Let me make a coffee, then I'll explain you some shit. Alright, coffee acquired. Let's learn with turbo. So, first of all, to explain this guy's question, I kind of need to explain how a conventional petrol engine works. I'm going to try and keep this under a minute, but no promises. So, first of all, the words English, swear to God, English is my first language. The 4-smoke cycle. Number 1, sucky. 2, squeezy. 3, bangy. 4, blow. 4 strokes. So, for every 1 revolution of the camshaft, the crankshaft spins twice. What happens is the piston goes down, the intake valve opens. It draws in air and fuel if it's a port injection. If it's a direct injection, obviously it just directly injects the fuel into the cylinder, right? Piston comes back up, it squeezes, all right? And then the spark plug goes bang, ignites the fuel, forces the piston down, and on the 4th cycle, blows the exhaust out. Now, the way the engine is managed is by your foot connected to the throttle plate, either by a cable or with computery wizardry in between there. But basically, you press your foot down on the pedal, it opens up the throttle plate. The throttle plate creates a restriction. So when you're idling, the throttle plate's completely closed, which this is still sucky, squeezy, bangy, blowy, which creates a vacuum inside the intake. Now, this vacuum is used for a lot of things like brake booster, all sorts of stuff like that. Now, when you're wide open throttle on a conventional petrol engine, there is no vacuum in here, right? It's basically atmospheric pressure. And if we want to get really technification-y, it's actually the difference between atmospheric pressure outside the engine and the vacuum lack of pressure inside the engine that creates that suction in the first place. So when you think about it, it's actually the force of the atmosphere bearing down on the engine that is forcing air into that engine. It's not technically sucking it as much as it's getting pushed in by the atmosphere. But anyway, let's continue. I know that was a really quick and crude rundown of it, but here we go. This is the conventional diesel engine, no turbocharger. You'll notice that there's no throttle plate on these. And that's due to a couple of reasons. Number 1, diesels run a lot higher compression ratio than petrols. And the second reason is that the way these engines are controlled, power-wise, varies a little bit. So, recap. With a petrol engine, you put your foot on the throttle, it opens up the throttle plate, lets more air in the engine. More sucky, squeezy, bangy, blowy, more power. Air, fuel, spark, power. So, 99% of diesel engines do not have a sparky boy. No sparky boys. They have a glow plug. Glow plug is for cylinder preheating because it's actually pressure and temperature that ignites diesel, not an actual source of sparky boy ignition. This diagram here is of a direct injected diesel engine. You can also get port injection diesel engines which have a swirl chamber and all sorts of other stuff, but this is the one we're focusing on now. The way power is controlled in these conventional diesel engines is by the injector pump, which is driven by the engine, crankshaft, etc. So when you put your foot down on the throttle pedal, it opens up the injector pump, which delivers more fuel to the injector here. And also the fact that it's a naturally aspirated diesel engine, there is a constant fixed amount of volume in the cylinder at all times. So we have air, the diesel injector supplies the fuel, and the heat and pressure ignites the fuel. And you'll notice that it doesn't run a vacuum because there's no throttle plate. But you still need to have, brake booster and stuff like that. So most diesel engines will run a vacuum pump driven by either the alternator or somewhere on the front of the crankshaft to create that vacuum for all the necessary things like, vacuum control solenoids, brake boosters, stuff like that. So for a quick recap, petrol engine, step on throttle, open throttle, lets more air in, sparky boy, fuely boy makes the bangs, and then more power. More power, baby! With the diesel, it's controlled by the injector pump. There is no vacuum restriction on there. Now you will notice that some diesels have a throttle plate or a butterfly valve. That is used for 2 main reasons. The first main reason on larger diesel engines like trucks is to stop it from running away basically, or just to shut it off. So the way to kill a diesel engine is to stop the air going to it or stop the fuel going to it. Now the second main reason, a rainbow. Anyway, the second main reason is for EGR. So modern diesel engines will take the exhaust and recirculate it back into the intake to burn more of the excess fuel that is unburnt in the conventional combustion cycle. Sorry, I got distracted because it started to rain. Anyway, as I was saying, the EGR system, exhaust gas recirculation, will create a restriction in the intake to suck more exhaust gases back through the intake. Some petrol engines have it. In my honest opinion, and I'm really sorry about this, Captain Planet, EGRs are a fucking terrible, terrible feature on any engine because it's basically breathing its own shit. But anyway, that was a quick rundown explanationification of how the diesel naturally aspirated engines work without a vacuum on there. Some petrol engines also don't run a vacuum. Very interesting. If you have any questions, ask them. I fucking love this shit.